Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back with another video from Totally Not Mark, and it's been quite a journey, but we are on the last review that is currently up on Totally Not Mark's channel for One Piece. We're going to be checking out the review for the TV specials for One Piece. It's only 22 minutes long, which is decent, so we're just going to get straight into it.
You know, having finished the One Piece films, I was almost certain that the specials would be easier to get through.
Right.
I mean, surely they'd be shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're almost all 2 hours long.
Oh,
so
what?
That's fun.
How are these
so
specials then?
10 hours worth of specials have been consumed in order for me to present you
That's
with
crazy.
this video.
Okay.
Jokes aside, however, there are some really interesting elements to these specials, with one of my very favorites coming up first for me to review. However, I do want to also add that on December 31st, I will finally be reviewing the moral arc of Dragon Ball Super, so look forward to that. But
hey, it's good
in the
review.
meantime,
Good review.
I'm Totally Not Mark, and these are my first impressions of, thoughts on, and review for the weird and wonderful world of One Piece's TV specials.
Cool.
Yeah! 3D2Y.
3D2Y?
1 hour and 47 minutes, 3D2Y is a
Jesus.
One Piece TV special that aired in 2014 covering the events following Ace's death. Spoilers, by the way. The first 14 minutes of this special recaps the events leading up to the timescale.
God, that's
of the manga.
emotional.
However, unlike the manga itself, this ultimately covers what happened during a small missing chunk of that time while Luffy was training his new abilities.
Oh, wow.
Right from the get-go, this is exactly the sort of material I am looking for out of a TV special.
Yeah.
To fill in some gaps within One Piece's already extensive timeline.
Kind of like
Fun
the
and imaginative
Trunks
so,
future
right off
special,
the bat,
where you see what actually
I am on
happened. It's like,
board
whoa.
with the direction of this special. Because of
Dragon
this,
Ball.
I can immediately identify where this particular story is in the timeline and where Luffy's mindset currently is. And this special takes full advantage of that. I also enjoy that the focus of Luffy's training is to get stronger so as to protect his friends. And through the natural means of incorporating the Boa Hancock character and her sisters, it acts as a surprisingly fitting substitute for Luffy's Straw Hat family in this regard. Within this story, he is essentially fighting to save them. Essentially, and in a nutshell, the training that Luffy undergoes within this particular section of the story is the impetus for this particular story's narrative. Boa Hancock, still infatuated by Luffy, wants to make sure he's perfectly taken care of, and so entrusts her sisters and her subordinates in giving Luffy everything that she thinks he needs, including food, clothes, and all sorts of stuff. However, in the process of doing so, they get taken captive by the big bad of this special, Mr. World. And
Mr.
essentially,
World?
the plot is then a rescue mission on behalf of Luffy and Boa in saving them from this big bad guy with the big cannon. What's more is that characters like Buggy the Clown are used to tremendous effect in this story, also to alleviate tension and to focus on the comedic relief. I've always been a fan of Buggy, from his design to his lying Weasley personality.
Yeah, he's so funny. I love him. Like, yeah.
Warlord of the Sea with his adoring crew was a stroke of genius in my opinion. With that specific dynamic being on full display in the special in ways the manga I don't think made full use on just yet. Though the manga is still unfinished, and let's be honest, Buggy is like a cockroach. You could blow up the entire world and he'd
still be there.
Yeah.
In
various scenes and fights during this particular special, his character is on full display with comedy, quick wit, and not so quick wit. And honestly, some genuinely brave moments on behalf of Buggy also, which was honestly something I wasn't expecting and one of the highlights for me for sure. There was also a fight between Boa Hancock and this old science lady that is so unabashedly there purely for fan service. I honestly don't know
that snake was waiting.
It exists.
Yeah.
Boa Hancock gets kinda naked, and the old lady drinks the serum to make her young and somehow makes her clothes grow and her glasses shrink. Moving on. I think this film does a fantastic job of not just including interesting characters, but also giving them reason to be there, both from a dramatic standpoint and a narrative one. Something I always found tiresome regarding a lot of the older One Piece films was that they would oftentimes feel like singular, isolated distractions, completely separate from the main plot. No ties to any past events in any meaningful way, usually. But this film gets it right in my opinion, occupying a portion of the story that was shown to us in the manga, utilizing characters we all love in meaningful ways and tying the villain once again to the greater world. And speaking of which, while I didn't find this biting the world guy all that interesting at first, as the special progressed during its runtime, little breadcrumbs of information were scattered throughout, illuminating a backstory and a contrasting symmetry between this villain and Luffy, both initially looking to sail outwards into the sea in search of their dreams with their brother, both losing their crew in the process. Both the means by which their journeys differ manifest as major factors in creating the people they are today, and not to mention the tension they experience with each other, culminating in a fight towards the end of the the special where this World character acts as the perfect antagonistic foil for Luffy at this point in his life. World values protecting his brother, and he judges Luffy for not being enough to protect his own.
Oh, damn.
He also has a mastery of the different types of hockey
Whoa, cool.
himself. This, on top of the thematic elements of this tale, as well as the secondary character dynamics now also at risk here thanks to this World character, it makes this third act captivating and enjoyable, and not to mention kinda tense. Even though this film only covered a minute fraction of the time Luffy spent training after the events of Marineford, as a Dragon Ball fan that enjoys training arcs, even getting a
that was cool. Yeah.
progression is enough for me to whet my appetite with. One Piece is a great series, but one aspect I would have liked to have seen more of was how the different characters came up with and developed their techniques. This film gave me that, or at the very least, an indication of what happened. It's a very
it's nice. That's cool. Yeah. Touch on those moments.
Is the animation is bonkers too. Check it out if you
It looks good.
I
Animation looks
highly
absolutely
recommend
class.
it. Adventure of Nebulandia. Adventure of Nebulandia is a One Piece TV special that aired almost exactly 5 years ago to the day. I've praised different shows and films for starting with a bang, but this one does that on acid. The very first scene shows the Straw Hats arriving at a location before being bombarded and attacked, showing footage of Luffy dying.
Whoa.
However, will the Straw Hats get out of this one? And when faced with this enormous army of CGI Marines, how will the Straw Hats contend with the 3 different character models it has? I'm serious, count them, there's like 3.
Crazy.
Jokes aside, because of this opening, there's a large portion of the story that is dedicated to a flashback, which means that, to a degree, there's an element of dramatic irony here. We know where the story is going, but the characters don't. And in this case, the TV special elected to swerve us as well as the Straw Hats when the climactic event actually does get underway. We think it's going one way, but it actually goes a different way.
My
Unlike
God.
the prior film, which occupies a very specific period of time during One Piece's story, this, much like the rest of the films, arbitrarily and vaguely slots itself in with all the grace I would expect from a TV special. They're sailing past an island, and would you look who it is? It's Foxy!
No.
Remember him?
Oh.
No? Well, neither
I
does
do.
Luffy, but boy is he mad, and dagnabbit does he want some payback from that last time Luffy gave him
I mean,
a
clever to
wham from
use a
man
villain
knockout.
that we've had already.
The Foxy Pirates in this film feel sort of like a sideshow novelty act that, through flashbacks, a few funny moments, and some clever placement of nostalgic throwbacks, integrate themselves as the primary antagonistic force within this narrative early on. And they are sort of... I'll explain. You see, there's some difference with this Foxy crew compared to their days with the Davy Back fight, and that's the addition of 2 new crewmates. Jakku, an experienced shipbride, and Kome, a former Marine. The plot early on follows in the same spirit as the original arc of Long Ring Long Land. The Foxy Pirates propose a rematch of their Davy Back fight, with the first round being an eating competition. However, thankfully, the plot takes an interesting turn away from where I thought it was going, as Sanji, Luffy, and Zoro all fall victim to the master plan put in place by the 2 new recruits of the Foxy Pirates. Double-crossing their own crew, they now have the Straw Hats in place to eat these mushrooms that basically make them all weak and unmotivated. To be honest, I thought this was going to be a really bad special, focusing largely on the Davy Back fight, but it turned itself around in the first act, as it instead of being a rematch with Foxy, becomes an unexpected rescue mission where the typically less combative characters, aside from Frankie and Robin I guess, have to now save the rest of their crew. It turns out the 2 new recruits on the Foxy Pirates are both Marines supported by the world government, specifically Kome, who he himself is a Vice Admiral.
Interesting, that's cool.
Essentially their plan is remove the Straw Hats from the picture once and for all.
Yeah, go for it.
Special, but I'll leave it there in case anyone wants to check it out because it's kind of good. For those of you that enjoy the world building, there are some cool elements here and there to this one too. Now with Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro in tow, the Vice Admiral and his subordinates take this cargo of prisoners to an island called Nebulandia. Oh my God. He said it! He said it! This island incorporates some really cool stuff, like a giant plant that eats devil fruit folk, but what I liked most about this was the seawater mist that envelops the area, zapping everyone who has devil fruit abilities of their power. Which I honestly really enjoyed, as it meant that Luffy had to rely on his friends more than he might normally. It's a rather simple mechanic, but it made an interesting difference to the story, seeing as it usually is all the powers or none of the powers along with no energy, because the seawater usually kills them, or tries to kill them at least. From an animation front, I thought it looked fairly standard with moments that looked rather great, and something that was nice was how the film covers many different color palettes, adding variety to the film, though I'm not personally a fan of the oversaturated color palettes that this film bathes in. Additionally, while I was happy that the Foxy Pirates facilitated an early swerve in the film, I wasn't a massive fan of their participation throughout, and to be honest, thought someone else could have been more fun to tag along with the Straw Hat crew. Overall, I thought the film itself was interesting in parts, with some moments that operated around some really cool ideas and surprises. The special itself isn't amazing, but it has more hits than misses for me. Worth checking out if you're a fan of the series.
Seems alright.
Adventure in the Ocean's Naval. While sounding like an average nautical-themed adult fetish film, Adventures in the Ocean's Naval is also the title of the very first One Piece TV special. Released in the year 2000, this is thankfully only 49 minutes in length and operates with a really simple story. There's a big hole in the ocean, Luffy and co want to get the treasure inside, and that's pretty much the gist of this one. But naturally, things are a little more complicated than they previously thought once they get into this big old hole. This entire special has a really nostalgic vibe to it, and one that I really
like. Look at the animation; it's very old. Like, you see the original animation look.
Prior to ever recruiting Chopper or anyone else thereafter. Its animation is nostalgic, humble and quaint, and it starts with Luffy peeing off the side of the ship. Funny imagery aside, however, this begins with a really characterful and funny set of scenes. Luffy is fishing for something big off the side. Nami asks what he's doing, and then something big begins pulling the ship. Luffy, thinking it's a massive catch, starts pulling everything and the ship along to the destination, while Nami is wondering what the heck is going on. They finally reach the end, and it's a treasure chest. Luffy, immeasurably disappointed, throws the chest away, citing that it tasted awful.
No!
To then jump into the water.
Obviously, she wants it. Jesus.
Throwing it away. I love this interaction because it only works if you understand these characters. It's simple, but it's entertaining character writing. It's compelling. The chest itself leads Nami, Usopp, and Sanji down into the depths below in search of a treasure. And just when I thought we were getting away from this discovering a new island trope in every one of these standalone films, what do we get?
Another island.
In the depths of the ocean, another island. I actually really like the vibe in this story. It's easily the funniest out of all of them that I've seen so far. It has a great sense of exploration and discovery while having a strong focus on character. Everything that happens in it happens as a result of who these characters are. How do they find this location? Luffy and Nami being Luffy and Nami. How do they get down there? Luffy and Usopp. How do they survive and get discovered? Sanji, Usopp, and Zoro all contributing in their own unique way that only makes sense if they do it. This is compelling writing 101, and while the plot is simple, it very much is a story I can get behind and enjoy, specifically because I'm a fan of the series. The second half of the story, however, is a slightly more traditional One Piece special, in that they identify a big bad and get to know the local inhabitants and their struggles before helping them thereafter.
And then beat them.
Spooky skeletons,
skeleton man!
Bats, and a plot involving this young boy that's quite emotionally rich too, considering the time spent on the actual topic. By the time I reached the end, this felt like all the best parts of Thriller Bark meets the intro sequence of Fishman Island crossed with Indiana Jones.
Cool.
It's fun. The action isn't as strong as the new, more flashy films or specials, but the passion put into the writing for this one is clear. It's a wonderful, fun romp that isn't too long and offers more bang for its buck than most of these specials could even hope to incorporate. I'm a huge fan of this one. Check it out. Episode of Sabo.
Okay.
Decide to tackle all
interesting.
These TV specials like I did, you will no doubt come into contact quite quickly with the likes of what I call the episode of series. There are 6 One Piece TV specials affectionately titled the episode of Nami, Luffy, the East Blue, the Merry, Skypia, and in this case, Sabo. Every one of these details previously told stories in miniature, sort of like a speedrun of a particular arc.
Okay, interesting.
Episode of Nami details the Island Park arc, episode of Skypia and East Blue obviously cover their respective arcs, and episode of Merry covers the Water 7 and Eddie's lobby arcs. However, episode of Luffy and episode of Sabo, while covering previously released storylines like Luffy's origin and Sabo's origin, and Sabo's overall participation in the Dressrosa arc, they also do so in tandem with new material, which is what I will be doing today with episode of Sabo. I won't be covering episode of Luffy simply because I'm exhausted and that special was aggressively mediocre. However, episode of Sabo is at the very least something I found enjoyable, while also shedding light once again on pockets of time we weren't present for with Sabo as he works his way up to revealing himself to Luffy at the Colosseum in Dressrosa. Once again, this is exactly what I am looking for in a TV special. Well, sort of. While 3D2Y was fantastic in that it was almost entirely new material, this does have a considerable chunk of time dedicated to showing material we've already seen. And so, from the get-go, I should say I won't be covering the stuff that we've seen already in the Dressrosa video I did for the manga. If you want to see those takes, go check out those reviews. My editor worked very hard on them.
Yeah.
But back to this special.
Oh god, then whatever happened next, Jesus.
Exactly why I like TV specials as a concept. They offer a long-running series the possibility of expanding upon different scenes while also demonstrating different points of view. I drew attention to a particular cover chapter that
Yeah, you did.
depicting Ace and Whitebeard's graves ages ago. However, what I didn't notice upon first glancing at was that there were 3 sake cups set alongside Ace's grave, a clear indication that Sabo was, in fact, alive before he was ever revealed to be so. In this special, we finally get to see him place those sake cups.
That's sick.
We didn't get to actually see in the original anime or manga.
That's dead cool.
This special does at large deal around the same story as Dressrosa, it more importantly predominantly shows it from a new perspective in Sabo. In the original material, we first came into contact with Sabo proper when he revealed himself to Luffy during the tournament.
Oh, mate, he loved it.
In this, we see not only Sabo but also Koala as they exchange information covertly at a cafe in the city. This
Dead cool. Dead cool.
Viewers of the current stakes and context going on in the special in a natural way, illuminating to us also the very instant Sabo learns about the first place prize of the tournament. Ace's flame fruit.
What?
And throughout this, while
So cool.
the rest of the pieces get put into place, it's interesting to
me.
Sabo's takes on each of the goings-on leading up to his grand reveal. Short as they may be, as a fan of the series, I quite enjoyed seeing them. As far as animation goes, I found this film to be surprisingly weak. While the artwork was perfectly fine and good, the animation felt very limited and clunky, with the vast majority of it barely moving at all. Relying heavily on stills and limited animation, I don't think this would bother many. Heck, I don't think the vast majority of people out there would even notice without someone pointing it out to them if they weren't into animation in the first place. But if you are someone who enjoys great animation as a cornerstone to your animated media, maybe sit this one out.
Right.
To cap off this special, there's the moment Sabo acquires the flame fruit with additional dialogue and reflection on what this means to him.
Awesome.
Before blasting the floor, saving Rebecca, and winning the tournament, ending the special. Overall, while I really didn't love this special by any means, I can at least appreciate the angle with which it chose to deliver its story. There wasn't a ton of extra stuff added, but what little there was, I did enjoy. I don't think I'd recommend this one over the original series or even as supplementary material to most. It's really not
just the extra
However,
stuff.
if you love
The
One Piece and are
extra.
looking for something to tie you over until the next chapter releases, maybe check it out. You could enjoy it.
Cool.
One Piece, Heart of Gold. This film starts out pretty much by the books, and the plot itself is really simple overall. There's a little girl of value on the marine ship, and these pirates want her. The pirates themselves that want this child make up the villains of the story, and while trying to capture the girl, she uses the chaos that ensues around her capture as an opportunity to escape, and by pure chance, in the vast expanse of the ocean, who does she run into but the Straw Hat Crew? That convenient trope aside,
Did not see that coming.
this little girl character. She's a little abrasive, but she's tough, and that's something a little different than what I usually see in these films. Usually it's Nami or something that needs saving. The villain in this instance is probably the least interesting villain I've come across in any of these specials. His name is literally, and I quote, Mad Treasure.
Okay, that's cool.
Hunter, specifically trying to get a hold of this little girl
Mad
because she
Treasure.
knows where the pure gold substance is. In this story, pure gold is a substance that can apparently buy the entire world.
God.
One major
It keeps
difference I noticed
getting
between these
worse.
specials is the quality of animation implemented and the stories they tell. Apart from 3D 2Y, which was very good and interesting, all of the other specials are animated in a much more limited fashion than pretty much any of the films available for viewing. Once again, the artwork and character likeness
Jesus,
is
nigga,
perfectly
Robin,
accurate,
calm
but the
down.
movement is very limited and very little character acting. You don't even need to compare this to stellar animated features like movie 6 or any of the modern ones either for this to be obvious. It's clear that the time dedicated to these wasn't on par with the films, which I suppose is perfectly fine, I guess. Films are supposed to be on a larger scale anyway. One thing I will say regarding the film's approach in terms of animation is that at the very end of the film, the quality does pick up quite a bit, thankfully. In addition to that, the selection of scenes and settings this special boasts
I'm sure I've seen a glimpse of Jiren then from Dragon Ball. It's meant to be like, yeah.
And in saying that, there's some nice imagery with the giant anglerfish at the end, as well as some nice backgrounds across the special overall. From a story
Looks very
standpoint, it might
Skypiea-esque.
be because I've now sat through so many TV specials and films that I've become jaded of all of these recycled plot lines, but the story didn't exactly set my world on fire. It has a lot of the same bells and whistles used in almost any of the other One Piece films or specials. Contrived beginning that hooks the crew with the main character or villain of interest, they look for treasure, get kidnapped, fight the bad guy at the end, and repeat. And while that's a very basic outline, a lot of these specials didn't offer much in the way of anything significant branching out from this either. and specifically when it came to these specials. When I don't have really nice animation to carry me through the film's unimaginative story, I tend to look more harshly upon it, though I suppose that's my own failing. With that said, I genuinely thought that there were plenty of things to enjoy about this one, and it had, at the very least, some interesting backgrounds and a scrappy kid character that turned out to be 200 years old. However, having gone through the last month watching the films and now these TV specials, I can safely say that they were significantly better than I anticipated them to be.
They seem alright, yeah. Sound good.
They were Oscar-worthy, though I really did like movie 6. I am very impressed, nevertheless, with the level of consistency One Piece's back catalogue of non-canon material really has to offer. I was fully prepared to be much more combative and harsh with my essays, but really none of the films were so bad to warrant such a criticism, and the vast majority I even enjoyed to a great extent. The last time I went through a back catalogue of a particular anime's films and specials was Dragon Ball, and I had significantly
that Broly movie's so bad.
for these. And speaking of Dragon Ball, I will be taking a break next Thursday for the Christmas or holiday break, and my next video will be out on December 31st. And on that day, I will be dropping my long-awaited review of the Morrow arc of Dragon Ball.
And he liked it, man.
I've been waiting to talk about
he
this,
liked
and
it.
many of you have been waiting some time for it, but until then, that'll do it for this week's video. I've been Toy Not Mark. I'll see you all December 31st, and thank you all so much for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, or whatever you choose to celebrate. I'll see you all right before the end of the year.
Cool. Well, there we have it. We've checked out all the reviews. The Checkered Fate I'm probably going to wait on. I'm very tempted to read chapters online because I just want to really be completely up to date with One Piece, but I'll see how we go. I'm not in any major rush for theory videos and that. Would be fun to watch it with like everything in full context though. But yeah, that's it. We've checked out all the reviews from Totally Not Mark. That's crazy. That's been a year. It's like, well, yeah, since I moved here. Like, I've been here nearly a year now. That's crazy. Like, what a journey. Yeah, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, upload a link in the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for that. Thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Remember to watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys next time.